world, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm really excited for today's webinar. It is really a topical content today, transforming the Great Resignation into the Great Retention. We know how tight the labor market is, and so the webinar today is about taking care of those good people that you already have so you don't have to worry about replacing them. Especially excited today to have a thought leader and an HR expert, Dr. Bev Kaye, join us. She is regarded in the industry for all topics HR, but especially how to retain your really good employees. Keep them happy right where they are. Also presenting today is my boss, Michael Wilkinson. He's the founder, the CEO of Leadership Strategies. He'll be leading the webinar today and introducing Bev in just 1 minute. Just a little bit about Leadership Strategies first. We are the market leader in professional facilitation services and training in facilitation. In our 30-year history, we've trained over 35,000 people just in our one flagship course, the Effective Facilitator. Thousands more in our other soft skill business training. We have 27 members on our core team, 27 full-time professional facilitators. 10 of them are certified master facilitators. That's 10 out of only 43 in the whole world. So we're really proud of that. We expand our reach with over 600 other facilitators under contract all around the world. That's in our Find a Facilitator database and website. We also deliver public open enrollment workshops all over the United States. That's about us. And now about the session. What are we going to do today? Here's what we intend that you will come away with. First, tips on how to engage and inspire your people. By keeping them around, you don't have to replace them. Secondly, how to build trust and a sense of community in your organization. And third, ideas for increasing the retention of your employees by responding to their specific needs, taking care of the individual needs, whatever they are. For the agenda of how we'll get the objectives done, we're getting started right now just on the introduction. We'll go to talk about the Great Resignation. Is it real or is it just a figment? We'll talk about that. And then how do we transition from that resignation to the Great Retention? Hang on to your good people. We'll talk about next steps for those who are interested. And finally, we'll wrap up with a question and answer period. We're happy that you're attending today. In appreciation of that, we're going to give a free white paper, The 8 Core Practices of Facilitative Leaders, another article called Staying Connected While Working Apart, and the recording for this session. Our presenter today is the CEO and Managing Director of Leadership Strategies, Michael Wilkinson. He was one of the first certified master facilitators in the world. He is an author many times over. The Secrets of Facilitation is the #1 selling book on facilitation in the world. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, I believe. Several other books about business soft skills. He's a board member for INIFAC and a member of the International Facilitation Hall of Fame. With that, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask that you introduce our guest speaker.
Hey, Doug, I just want to make sure. Yes, great. Well, what I wanted to share with you is that I get the pleasure of presenting our guest speaker, who's Bev Kaye. Let me tell you about Beverly. I mean, she has written a book called Love 'Em or Lose 'Em. And it really is, she is what we would call an icon in our industry. The Association for Talent Development, you can see there, in 2018 gave her a Lifetime Achievement Award. And when we were thinking about doing this webinar, this whole thing about how do you transition the Great Recession into the Great Retention, there was no question in my mind, my #1 pick for having really sharing her thoughts and ideas on how to do that. So Bev is a personal friend, and I feel so blessed that she'll be with us today. And so Bev, would you come on and say hi as we get started with this? We really want them to know who you are, and I'm just so proud of you being here. I think you are muted for some reason. See if we can get that. It looks, yeah, there you go. We can hear you now.
Right. And Michael, it's been wonderful to know you for all the years I've known you and tease you for all the times I've been able to tease you. And great to join you on this particular session, which happens to be right up my alley.
So in your wheelhouse, to be sure.
Right.
In fact, let's go and get into it. I'm going to spend a few minutes focusing on the Great Resignation, how real it is. And so I want to start there, and Bev's going to take over and give her thoughts as well. But let me just share with you, because I'm wondering if we can go ahead and we'll execute this very first poll. The question is, how real is the Great Recession? How real is it? Some of you may say, really, it's very real. I've experienced the impact. Well, I think it's real, but I haven't really seen it directly. Or, you know what? I've heard about it, but I'm not sure it's real. Or it's really much ado about nothing. A lot of talk, not much more. We've got nearly 200 people on the webinar at this point, and so let's give it another 10 seconds as those final votes are coming in. We've got 57% of you voting. We'll go another 5 seconds, counting down. 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and close that poll. And let's take a look, if you will, at what people said. Wow, Bev, 75% of the people, we have believers. 75% says it is very real. 22% think it's real, but haven't been directly impacted. 3% have said, I've heard about it, but not really sure. What do you think, Bev?
Right. I'm not surprised, just given the companies I work with, you know, everybody is so aware how precious talent is. And when talent goes, so goes projects, and so goes frustration, and here comes stress.
Here comes stress.
So keeping them is critical.
Well, let's just see, are we really having trouble keeping them? Well, first, let's talk about where the term came from. This is Dr. Anthony Klontz at the he's an associate professor, as you can see, at Texas A&M University. And so in May 10, 2021, think about that. Over a year ago, he was the one that first coined the term in an interview. He said, the Great Resignation is coming. When there's uncertainty, people tend to stay put. So there are pent-up resignations that didn't happen over the past year. So he was predicting in May, think of that date, May 2021. Keep that in mind. He was saying there's this thing coming, and he called it the Great Resignation. Well, what I want to show you is what the population looked like, a percentage of an employment population. This is resignation rates. So you can see here this picture that this starts in 2001. Resignation rates were about 2.25% of our employment. It went up, it went down. What happened in 2008? Because this is a major shift. We all know what happened in 2008. That was called that big financial crisis, the Great Recession, as it was named. And notice what people did. They stayed. It went from about 2.25% to about 1.25%. People stayed. So think about that. That resignation rate dropped almost 50% over that period as people were staying on. Well, for it to get back to 2.25%, take a look. This is 2009. It took close to 10 years for it to rise back to where it was before the Great Recession. Well, this takes us up to, if you can see it, takes us to the start of 2020. Well, what happened in 2020, everybody? We all know what happened. What do we call it? Yeah. So while we were averaging 2.0 over this period of time, in the pandemic, look at this steep decline, where once more, it dropped by more than 50% in the decline. Well, while it took 10 years to get back from the 2009, look what happened to us. In March of 2021, resignation rates met an all-new high, higher than it had ever been before. And that happened over, you can see it all happened over a period of less than a year. All of a sudden, resignation rates were higher than ever before. Did it stop? No. A new record in April of 2021. And again, a new record in August of 2021. And a new record in October. And a new record in November. Are you getting the point? And then again, yes, to March, it hit a new high. So we are seeing resignation rates like we've never seen before. And the speed at which we got back to where we were faster than ever before. People are resigning, and it's real. It is a very real phenomenon at rates 50% greater than we've seen before. Well, what is it all about? The good news is it's not the same for all industries. People are staying with the federal government. They're staying in the financial insurance industries. We get some turnover in the information services, but look at the big ones. Twice as high as everyone else, 6% in food services, the restaurant businesses and so on. Retail trade, 1.5 higher. It's over 75% higher than the others, retail trade. So you're getting the idea that in essence, there are some industries that are hit harder than others. But the question then comes, why are people leaving? What's causing this? And then we're going to talk about what do we do about it? Well, Pew did some research in 2022, February, surveyed 6,600 people and asked them, these are people who weren't retiring and who quit a job in 2021. Why did you quit? Of course, you're going to have people saying pay was too low, they moved for pay, but it's the other things. We had 63% either gave a major or minor reason, no opportunities for advancement. This one, disrespected at work, not enough flexibility to choose when to put in the hours. And those who did become employed, yes, there were those who said they were going for more money, but look at this. 53% said it was for more advancement, for more balance, working time, more flexibility. People from the pandemic have found that there is a thing called life, and they want to live it. And you can see then that they are not only wanting to live it, they are demanding to live it. And if organizations are not responding, you will too be like what we're seeing in the retail industry and the restaurant industry. Very high turnover rates. So some real issues there. And I want to hear from, what do you think about all this, Bev? Let's hear from you. You saw the three statistics there about the rates being higher than ever before, resignations to key industries, why people. What are your thoughts on this, Bev?
You know, I'll say I am not surprised at all by those top three. And here's a quick idea. What I say to all the clients I have that around pay, do not compete on dollars. It's a no-win. Someone always will offer more. Compete on culture. Compete on how your culture is different and what goes on in your organization. And on the no advancements, no opportunity, you know, I wrote the book, Up is Not the Only Way, almost 40 years ago, and I'm still singing it from mountaintops, that there are opportunities. It's just we are blinded to them because we keep up as the primary way that everyone wants to move. And everyone doesn't want to move up. And we can talk more about that.
Well,
and advancement means many ways to grow.
Okay, so we got two books you're going to be telling us about, Love Them or Lose Them, and Up is Not the Only Way. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into, now that it's really clear, this great resignation is real. how do we transform it and make it the great retention? And so one of the things we know that if you want your people to stay, they have to be engaged. If your people aren't engaged, generally they won't stay. And so to get your people engaged, it takes an engagement-focused leader. A leader who, yes, gets results, but recognize if you want to retain and continue to get those results, you better retain your people. So not only being results focused, they also must be engagement focused. And so in her book, Love or Lose Them, she makes it really clear that an engagement focused leader does three things that other leaders don't. They develop people so they can grow. They build relationships that breed loyalty. And you heard Bev already say the whole thing about culture. They create a work culture where people thrive. So the engagement-focused leader is what we want you to get out of this. And Bev's going to go to some real strategies to help leaders to do this. And if you're looking for your leaders to be this way, Bev can definitely show you how. So take us from there, if you would, Bev.
Sure. So I want to show you what development and growth looks like, and what the relationships look like, and what culture looks like. Development and growth. And let me just say, when we did the original research, which was 20 years ago, we found that, in fact, there are so many ways that talent can be told they count. One way to tell talent they count is by growing them, supporting their careers, growing them right on the job, enrich, making sure the minute you hire them, you re-recruit them, making sure that they build connections in the organization, making sure mentoring, informal mentoring, is going on all the time, and making sure people are opportunity minded, not opportunity blinded. So let me ask all of you a question. I want to know, and I know some of you out there are managers, some of you are individual contributors. Answer for yourself. Which one, if you could only pick one right now, which one is most critical to your own engagement? And just put the letter, the C, the E, the H, up in your question box.
There we go. And so we
just want to see what happens
through here. Boy, we're seeing several C's, big ones, C's. We see a bunch of M's coming through, a few E's. Guess what? The C's are taken over. So really, first would be C. Second would be the E's. Third would be, it looks like it's the M's. The C's and the M's are the big numbers we're seeing. Think you're Barbara, Brian, Rodney, Ashley, Melissa, Leroy, and so on. Great answers there. Your thought on that? The C's, E's, and the M's seem to be taking over.
So here's what I want your whole audience to know. That you could take this slide, and I'm going to show 3 different ones, and you could say to each of your direct reports, which one is critical, just from the word alone. And they'll tell you. And then your next question is, well, what does the word mean to you? And what can I do more to support you?
No, I love those 3 questions. And think about what Bev just said. She said, 1, use this slide and ask your own people who report to you, which of these is most important to you?
Right.
And before you jump to solutions, asking that second question, what does it mean to you?
Exactly.
And then what can I do, or what can we do to help?
Exactly.
That's great, Bev. I love that.
Exactly.
This is pure jewels, y'all. I hope you wrote those 3 questions down. And I'm going to repeat them one more time. Which is most important to you? What does it mean to you? And what can we do to help in this area? Good stuff.
And let me give a few tips. Since you said careers was so huge, let me tell you the 5 things everyone wants to know if you will do around their careers. Every new recruit wants to know it. They're checking out, and everybody in the organization. Number one, they want to know, will you use all of my skills? Not just the ones for this particular job. Will you get to know me? Number two, they're asking, will you give me ongoing feedback so that I know how to grow? Number three, they're asking, will you fill me in on how this org is changing so I can go with those changes? Number four, kind of around opportunities, they're saying, I know that not everybody can move up. Will you make sure I have opportunities to grow here? And lastly, they're saying, will you continue teaching me so that I can be employable anywhere? In a way, that's the crux of career. And you know, Michael, the one other thing I'll say that I've seen a lot is Link has gotten so much more important, especially during those remote years that we just spent. People crave those connections, and it's up to managers to build them. So those are some quick hints about how, in fact, to talk to your people around this. Most important, ask them individually. And then relationship. Relationships are so important. You know, on that yield one, what I heard constantly when I read exit interviews was, my boss was a micromanager. I never got to show my skill and my ability. And over again, and as I talk about these, know that we're going to ask you to vote. The truth one is, you know, I want you to give me feedback. I can handle it if you give it to me in the right way.
You handle the truth.
Yes. Right. You know, and the dignity one, I used to think that all of DEI fit into dignity until my publisher said, Beverly, I don't think it's all in dignity. When you write the 6th edition, show me how every single one is connected to inclusion and belonging. And I had to rethink everything, and I realized they all are. You know, yield is important, micromanaging, listening is critical, recognizing people, absolutely. And the question one, reconsidering the rules. You know, what rules do we now put aside or throw out altogether? So the question for all of you is, which one right now is most supports belonging and inclusion for you? Again, every leader, you can ask that question. You can pull this slide, and you'll get a sense how different it is for everybody, which is the essence of what we're talking about for belonging and inclusion. So and I'll tell you that never have I heard that you for understand being more important. So Michael, hopefully people are voting by putting up.
We've got a three-way tie going between D, U, and T, as it looks like. You got a few more for T. She's got 3 more for you. We got a D.
Again, I'm not surprised.
Oh my gosh, it really is the D, U, and T. The recognition is trying to make a comeback here.
Right.
But I've got to say, at this point, it is the U's. The U's have taken over.
Right.
It is
and you know, it is, it's so understandable in business and in life and in marriage. Do we stop to listen? You know, we often ask a great question, and then what I see managers do, the person answers and they move to the next question instead of delving on that particular question. And I think that we throw the word empathy out there. You've got to have empathy. but we don't teach the how-tos of empathy. And I think we need to over and over and over. And, around that are the recognition. For years, we've been finding that verbal recognition is the number one thing people want. Second is written recognition. And when we recognize someone, it's not just good job. It's here's what you did that really impressed me. Here's precisely what it was. And it might only take a minute or two. And it's not saving it up and giving it later. And we all know that. In fact, I'd say to everybody in the audience, every manager, nothing I'm saying should be new to you. It is the gap between knowing and doing that gets us. So these are all critical. And let me say one word about the J.
You've got to talk about the J.
The J, because when we came, this edition this has been out 20 years. When we said we had a J chapter and we said to our publisher, it's got to be there. He said, Beverly, Sharon, that's the most negative. Can't you put something else in there? And we said no. And you know why we said no? Because here's what we did. We followed up on people's exit interviews. We found them in the next organization. And we said, you wrote this and this on your exit interview. What didn't you write? Why did you really leave? And they said, my boss was a jerk and I could not stand it anymore. And of course, as good researchers, we said, well, what do you mean by the word jerk? And they gave us 50 plus jerkatudinal characteristics.
Jerkatudinal characteristics.
Jerkatudinal. And they're all in the book. And there are things that everybody's a jerk some of the time. I'll bet even you're a jerk some of the time, Mr. Facilitator. And so all of these things are critical. And again, managers, you could take this slide and you could say to every single one of your direct reports, and I would do it individually, not as a group, because everybody has a different want from relationships.
Nice.
And ask them what the word means. And it, if you have the chapter, great. If you don't, you still have this. So the third grouping is culture. And here's what we found when we analyzed our thousands of surveys, that what culture means to me is that, I have a company that supports my family, supports the me who has other people around me. That work is fun too. I get to smile, that I get the information I need, that I get to do what I'm passionate about, that I'm giving the space I need to do my work the way I best do it, that people are aware of my own well-being. And that, when I come to work with a big frown, maybe somebody says, what's going on, Bev? And maybe that's all I need. And that I'm in an organization that values me, and I'm in an organization that understands that different generations may want different things. So here's the question for you all around culture. Which ones jumped out stronger over the last 2 years during COVID? And COVID's not gone. So which ones are jumping out stronger? Is it the I, which I've been hearing? Is it the W, which, boy, well-being popped at me in a big way? What is it? And Michael, they're voting.
They sure are. It's not even close. It's
really?
A slam dunk. It's wellness all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And boy, and
Second is family. But
right.
yeah.
I get it. And you know, maybe that's one of the good results of what we went through on COVID. It just is dawning on me, because we became more aware of family. Those of us, whenever, if it was a dog, a cat, a husband, kids, we became more aware, and we became more aware of our own well-being and what mattered to us. You know, Michael, the United States is the reigning workaholic nation.
Wow.
And as a workaholic, I must say, I'm in there, and I don't take care of my own well-being enough. So these are critical to a culture that hangs on to people. And let's do that vote. And you tell me how, you said the vote was wellness. I'm sorry, you're right.
In fact,
And the vote was family.
I suspect that family vote really may have had to do with having a sense of family, not only at home, but also at work.
You're so right. You're so right.
You talked about.
It connects back to link.
Yes.
And how important those linkages are. And you know, the other one that I saw get bigger during COVID was information. And even though as a leader, you might think you're giving people the information they need, do you ever stop and ask, what more information can I provide? What information do you feel you're not getting? See, it's really all about making this individual, making it personal. And while I wrote about all these in each of the chapters, the word connotates something to everybody. Mm-hmm. And then there were four. There were four others that we could not fit into any of those groupings. And here's what they were. They were the ask, what keeps you? They were the buck, who's in charge, numbers, and zenith. And let me say just a few words about each of them. The A for ask, here's where we got the idea of the stay interview. And I told you, I think, Michael, I'm sorry I didn't trademark those words.
You were the first one who came up with it.
First, yeah.
Yes.
And we wrote a book about it, but others had written those books first. So here's what we found. When do managers ask? When do they say, well, what can I do to keep you? At the exit interview. And when they really need to say it is all the time. We need to say, hey, you're doing great work. I don't want to lose you. You know, tell me what's important. And I need to listen. And here's the thing, managers who are afraid to ask because they think the answer will be more money, yes, ask it anyway. And if it is more money and you can't deliver, I promise you, if you say, I can't deliver on that now, what else matters? If you ask what else 4 times, I promise you, you will get something that is within your control. Buck is all about, sorry, manager, a lot of it does stop with you. Not everything, but a lot. Numbers, if I know you're busy, every manager out there, I know you're busy. If you doubt this is important, run the numbers about how much it costs to lose talent. Mm. And then zenith, if you think you can say done, finished, over, well, you are wrong. This is ongoing. It's never quite finished. So yep, these are the 4 kind of success drivers. And I love that if you keep doing them, your connection with people will keep growing just like that little bud in the flower pot. So maybe for now, my closing words would be that you will pay, alas, if they don't stay. You'll pay in stress. You'll pay in your own well-being. You'll pay in your own upset. And you'll pay big in dollars as you look at the hamsters on the treadmill who are left after key people leave, and how much more has to be done by the people who stay. So put your arms around this alphabet and see if you can learn what's important to every single person.
Loving that, Bev, and really great stuff. We've got several questions for you. I appreciate it, and and also Marcella and so on. We will come to those questions at the end. We will, but we want to go to a second half of this. So what Bev has been talking about is the engaged, focused leader, and how it really is about getting their people engaged. Now, we want to transfer this over to also talking about leaders' role, what we call the facilitative leader, which is how a leader can use facilitation principles to engage their people. And so give you a feel for what we're talking about. We use what we call this whole idea of taking a facilitative approach to leadership in order to engage your people. We call it the succeed model. The way it works is you start with the why, not with the what. So facilitator, understand the importance. You start with the why. This is Simon Sinek's work, that it's not, you don't tell people what to do. It's not about command and control. It really is about inspiring people. And leaders who are facilitative understand the importance of really inspiring. And so then understanding your people, much of what Bev's been talking about, and empower them for success versus command and control. And you as leaders, you don't create the solution, you create the vision. You tell people, hey, here's the picture of what we want. You tell me how to bring that about. So you create the vision, not the solution. And then one of the ones that are personal for me that I continue to work on, connect first, correct second. Connect first, correct second. So if someone's doing something that you don't want them to do, what do we naturally do as leaders? We tend to correct it. Wrong answer. Connect first, correct second. Equip for success. For your teams to be successful, you have to equip them. When a team fails, it's easy to point the finger at the team. You really have to ask the question, what's my role in this? Did I properly equip the team? Did I properly monitor? Equip for success, monitor for results. As Jim Collins says, leaders, true leaders understand when things are going well, you look out the window and you praise the people who are doing the work. When things aren't going well, you look in the mirror and ask, I need to be different. How do I need to be different as a part of this? Teaching these principles for leaders are key. 6, engage conflict, resolve dysfunction. This says your job as a leader is not to ignore conflict, but to engage it. In fact, disagreement is good. Disagreement is good. What disagreement means is there's a potential solution, better solution that hasn't been found yet. If a leader suggests something and everyone says, okay, that's all you're going to get. You're going to get this level of benefit. But when someone says, well, what I like about it is this, but what might make it better is we do this. Someone else says, well, yeah, that could help, but what about this? Yeah, and what about this? And what about this? Now you get this level of benefit as opposed to this level. Why? Because great ideas take creative abrasion. By rubbing against each other, we get better ideas. But if we don't know how to engage conflict and we run from it, we're accepting this instead of that. And so then 7, drive participation, not just input. You want to engage people with their hands and feet and so on as a part of the work, not just gathering input from them. These are all just key. Now, here's what's interesting. If I were to ask you, what are the principles of leadership in your organization?
Which one?
How many of you would say, well, I don't know. I don't think we have any. That's a problem. So having principles of leadership where all your leaders are understanding, this is the way we lead around here. These are principles that guide our day-to-day decisions. Without them, if you aren't giving people your principles of leadership, guess how they're operating? Based on their own, which may not match yours. That's a problem. So having principles of leadership, and oftentimes when people go through our facilitative leadership course, it's really all about deciding what do we want our principles of leadership to be and what strategies do we want to use to implementing those. So that's what this is all about. So when we talk about the facilitative leader, it's getting leaders to a point where they understand what a facilitative leader is. They understand how to execute it. And we do it through half-day workshops on various topics for what it's worth. I just want to give you a feel for what I'm talking about. So we say, remember the vowels. A, appreciating. E, engagement. I, inspiring. O, offering growth opportunities. U, understanding and adapting. And Bev, guess what? You created your whole book, Love Them or Lose Them, going A to Z. We like alphabets too. It really works. So we're focusing on the vowels here, A, E, I, O, U. And so here's my question. Now let's do this as a poll, shall we? Of these key items, which does your organization most need to improve? Of these, is it the appreciating, engaging, inspiring, offering growth opportunities, understanding and adapting? Which of these, the vowels, would you say your organization needs to get better at? Again, we'll give it another 10 seconds here. Is it appreciating, engaging, inspiring, offering growth, or understanding and adapting? Counting down, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll go ahead and close out that poll. What do you think? What would be your guess, Bev? What do you think would be the highest?
You know, well, my mind goes to engaging because I see everybody needing to up that score. But understanding is a close second for me.
Interesting. Engaging was third, but understanding, as you said, was number 1, followed by offering growth opportunities. There you go. And as you said already, you're going to have to touch on it. What did you mean by up is not the only way, but we'll come to that with questions. And so let me hide that poll and let's go ahead and roll. So it's pretty clear. So I just want to offer you a few strategies from the facilitative leader around the AEIOU, just to give you a feel for some of the things you might want to be doing across these areas. So let's go ahead and take the A. We say praise using the gift approach. And you heard Bev talk about this. So here when you praise, we say, go from the general to the specific. 2, give the impact of the action. 3, tell them how you feel about it. 4, say thanks as a part of it. So we GIFT, give a gift. So I could have said, Bev, you did a great job on that webinar, talking about the great recession, the great resignation, transforming it to the great retention. Great job, Bev. That's the traditional way. Now let's me give a gift. Bev, I gotta tell you, that presentation you gave on transforming the great resignation into the great retention was just phenomenal. Let me tell you, when you walk through each of those 3 areas that people needed to do, and then you gave them specific strategies around how to have the discussion, and then you can even further gave them the 3 questions that they should ask when they have. I mean, it's that kind of stuff that makes me say, oh my God, this is my organization being a part of a presentation like this. It made me feel great. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. Can you feel the difference when you give a gift? General impact, feel thanks. And again, we love having leaders practice it, because once they practice it, they got it. They got it once they practice it. And then creating rewards and recognition for teams. Don't have to go deep there. We already talked about engaging conflict, resolving disagreements. Just as an aside, for those who know us through facilitation, all leaders need to understand there are only 3 reasons people disagree. Every disagreement in the entire world. I mean, I really mean it, in the entire world. We've said, Doug said, we've trained 35,000 people in our flagship course, The Effective Facilitator. We haven't had a single person, once they heard the 3 reasons, say, no, there's a 4th. So really, trust me, there are only 3 reasons people disagree. And so we can help leaders understand, here are the reasons people disagree, only 3. Here's how to diagnose whether you have a level 1, 2, or 3 disagreement. And here are the things to do to address each one. Because if you try to address a level 3 disagreement with level 1 techniques, you're going to fail. Level 1 techniques can't solve level 3 disagreements. You have a level 1 disagreement, try to use level 2 techniques, you're going to fail. So leaders have to understand that. They need to know how to drive participation, not just gathering input. We don't want to treat your people like a focus group. So it used to be, I come out of the IT consulting world. I was with one of the, what was at the time, Big 8. I understand it got down to Big 6. Now we're on the final 4, right? We used to interview, when we'd go into a company to try to figure out what the company needed to do, we'd come in with our smart folks, interview people, come up with what we call a 100% solution. We come back a year later, because good consultants do go away. We come back a year later, maybe 15% was implemented. In my last 2 years with that organization, we started taking a different approach. We call it the facilitative approach. We became facilitative leaders. We would come in but assemble their people. We would have their people go through the process. They would come up with the solution. And they might only come up with 60% solution. We'd float, hey, we saw this work here. Oh, yeah, great. We saw this work. Oh, wonderful. We saw this. Nah, won't work here. Okay, fine. How about this? No, they may only accept the 85% solution. We come back a year later, Bev, 80% of it's implemented. Why? Because they created it. And that's this formula. It comes from Dr. Robert Zawacki, University of Colorado. Great explanation of facilitative leaders. Facilitative leaders understand that an effective decision, if you want a decision to be effective, it equals RD times CD. It equals the right decision. And you may think, like I did the first time I heard Dr. Zawacki talk about this, put a period there, Bob. Effective decisions equals right decision, period. He said no. Times seed of the decision, times commitment to the decision. See, here's what this means. Right. Most leaders figure out what the right decision is and then try to build commitment to it. What's the problem? If your team has zero commitment to your right decision, how effective is it? Zero. Why? Anything times zero is zero. If you know the right decision for your customer and your customer has zero commitment, Bev, what's it mean? Zero. So what facilitative leaders understand is they do these two things together. Rather than build the right solution and then try to build commitment, get the people in the room impacted by the solution, involved in creating it, and you automatically build commitment. And you often come up with an even better decision. So what do you want? 15% of 100 or 80% of 85? You get the idea. It's all about building commitment to that decision. And you do them both at the same time. But to do this takes a different set of skills. What do you do if people disagree? What do you do if there's dysfunction? How do you keep people focused? That's what the facilitative leader understands, how to use these strategies to get to the kinds of results we want. Anyway, we've gone deep there. There's about inspiring and starting with the why, equipping for success that we talked about. I want to move right through this and really get to connecting first, understanding and empowering, and recognizing and adapting. All really important strategies, lots we could talk about. But as you know, I'm fond of saying, Bev, let's not. Let's move on. So it's time for us to talk about next steps, because we've gone through, we reviewed, we got started, Doug took us through, we got into the Great Resignation, how real it is, very real as you saw. Bev shared with us some transformation strategies, ways to transform it. I just shared some things from the facilitator leader. Want to go through it. Doug, I think this is where you take over, buddy.
Yes, sir, Michael. Be glad to. For the related courses, we do have courses from Leadership Strategies and from Bev Kaye and Company. I will speak to the leadership strategies. No, actually, there are Bev's courses. Bev, will you talk briefly about each of these and we'll get into questions?
Sure. Just real quickly, I realized that in a way, my whole career has been around keeping good people. Love 'Em or Lose 'Em was first published in '99. and it is still hot, in fact, hotter than ever. Connected to that is the stay interview. How do you do a stay interview? And then the career development world. How do we show people that there are multiple opportunities for them to grow in an organization? So those are three of the many opportunities we offer: training of trainers, etc., or keynotes on any of those topics.
Very good. We will keep running.
Thanks, Bev. From Leadership Strategies, the Effective Facilitator, this is our flagship course. We teach it both virtually and in person. We have open enrollment classes, meaning individuals or small groups, and we also come and do private groups on site or again virtually. We've got classes upcoming next month, both of those virtual, and we have some in-person classes, and be in touch if you're interested in a private class for your group. Otherwise, the facilitative leader that Michael touched on, there's an in-person class here in Atlanta, July 6 and 7. It's a wonderful class about developing those facilitative approaches towards management to get better engagement and better involvement from your people. We also have a course on the DISC communications workshop. We call it Discourse, and say DISC and communicating, it's not about you. It's about those you communicate with, understanding those that you interact with and speaking in a way that's most comfortable and best way that they can hear you well. Want to go into the questions and answers. I've got several already typed in. I know you guys have seen the question box and know how to use it. So if you've got a question for either Michael or Bev, type it into the question box and we'll get to those just as quick as I can. Michael, while they're typing in the question and answer, can you help me and launch that last poll? This is the what else do you need from us? A, you're interested in a Bev Kaye training or a leadership strategies training is the second option. Contact me about hiring Bev to keynote a meeting or event. Contact you about hiring a facilitator for a specific meeting or big event that you've got at your organization. And lastly, nothing for now. Thanks for the webinar. It was all I needed. So click on those, whichever is best. If you click on contact me, we will call and email and be interested in following up with you to see how we can help. Michael, have you launched that poll?
It's been launched, and so let's go to questions. We'll leave the poll open for another 30 seconds as we've got 57% of you voting so far. If you would go ahead, and if it's nothing for now, just go ahead and click on that. But we'll keep going. Go ahead, Doug.
Bob has a question for Bev. Bev, this is for you. It is from Bob. What's the role of the employee in engagement and retention? Is it all on management, or does the employee have a role?
Well, Bob, wherever you are, great question. And, when we wrote Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, managers started saying to us, why is this always on our shoulders? And my co-author and I said, duh, of course it's not all. It's the employee also who has to ask for what, maybe the most important chapter is the A, ask for what they need, and ask in such a way that you can brainstorm with your manager about how to meet what you need. So we did write another book called Love It, Don't Leave It. And the employee is very responsible for their own engagement. Explanation point after that.
Very good, Bev. Thank you. Michael, I think this is for you. Marlene is asking, once we are making changes, what do we do with leaders who don't buy into the changes?
Ooh, Marlene, tough question. Tough question. I want to be really, really clear on this. There's a statement that people change. If you have a behavioral issue, there are only 3 reasons you can have a behavioral issue. One, it's awareness. They're not even aware that they're having an issue. The 2 is skill. They're aware they have the issue, but they really don't have the skills. The 3 is they're aware they have the issue, they have the skills, but they really don't want to. They don't have the will. Now let's be clear. Awareness issues you solve overnight by making people aware. Skill issues, hey, you give it 6 months, give them the skills. If it's a will issue, you give them the weekend. In essence, if they're not willing to do where the organization is going, it's like you are on a boat or driving a car. You've got everybody with their foot on the accelerator. We're moving, and someone's in the back just really slamming down the brake. Leaders have to lead. And if they're not willing to lead, you may have to free up their future. Sorry, but that's tough love.
That's good.
Bev,
Thank you, Michael. I think this is for Bev, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. There's a tilde over the N. I believe it's Inigo. And he asked, some people are calling it the Great Resistance. People are resisting going back into the office. Bev, what do you think is the root cause of that resistance?
You know, there's been so much out about what people have learned by being remote. And they've learned about their own values. They've learned about what's important. And many are resisting the return. And I think that's understandable. And I think we need to react to it differently. You know, I just wrote an article titled The Great Comeback, where I think now our attention has to be on people coming back. And we have to welcome them with open arms and find out what is it they want, what have they learned out there, and what do we need to offer differently than the way it was. So great question.
Love that.
Marcella has a question. I'm not sure for which of you, but whoever. What is your point of view on fun culture activities that are conducted virtually?
Oh my gosh, and let me be really clear on that one. And Bev, if it would love to get your thoughts on it as well. When we think about the workplace, and many places still have not gone back to work. In our workplace, we have made the decision before the pandemic that we'd be transitioning to a partial virtual environment. All the pandemic did was accelerate it. Yet we still have staff meetings that are face-to-face, even though everyone has the option of being 100% virtual. Fun activities, whether it's virtual or in person, the question is the same. Should you have fun activities in the workplace? Whether the workplace's answer is not yes, but hell yes, right? If we want to build culture, humor and having fun together is just one of those things that are level setters. I don't care whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, whether you're black, white, yellow, purple, green, humor is a level setter. When we can just enjoy one another, what a difference it makes. So not yes, but hell yes. Bev?
Good. I agree.
Okay, we got agreement, Doug.
Very good. And Bev, we got time for one more question. Gail loves the concept of stay interviews. What kind of questions would you ask? And just be brief because we got 1 minute left.
Gail, number one, you're welcome to drop me a note and I will send you a list of great questions. But maybe the most important question on the stay interview is the lead-in, which is, I don't want to lose you. You're precious to me. Tell me what more I can do to extend your stay on my team. And then there's many more, and I'm glad to send you a list.
If you'd like to get that list, just go ahead. We'll be on for another 30 seconds. Put your email address in the question box, and we'll be sure to hand that over to Bev so she can get it to you.
Right.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining. Michael, Bev, thank you so much for providing the expertise. And the entertainment value. I had a good time and stayed paying attention the whole time. And I would love, as we sign off here right on time, Bev, send us out, wrap it all up for us.
Well, I was trying to think of what's one quick 30-second piece we could put up. And again, I rhyme as much as I can. You want to keep them there, then show you care. And show it in a way that meets each individual differently. Ask, how can I show you I care? So, them's my parting words.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend as you celebrate the holiday weekend over this time. Thanks very much, everybody.